Okay, welcome to Bon Jovi Discussions Part 4. Today I have Leesha, who many people already know runs David Bryan FC on Twitter and Instagram. And if you're not already following her, you should because it has a lot of great David Bryan content. So, Leesha, how are you?
I'm doing good, thank you.
You guys show them your David Bryan posters there.
It's my little work corner.
My
Jovi corner.
Say that again?
I said it's my little Jovi corner.
Sure is. There's a lot of Jovi there, but that's okay. So you want to start talking about the fan club first?
Yeah. So pretty much I started it over on Facebook in like 2016. Didn't really have like a huge following. And then, it kind of spread to Twitter and then Instagram, and the numbers just kind of blew up.
Yeah.
But it's pretty much since the beginning, I've gotten the whole, oh my God, is this David? Oh my God, are you David Bryan? Is this really David Bryan? And I feel horrible because I'm like, no.
Nope.
But nope, this ain't.
But you got all things DB, Ro. So
I got all things DB.
Yeah, on your account.
Mm-hmm.
You provide a lot because I think I found your account last year and we started talking about a year ago.
Yeah.
And I thought your site was really because I don't follow many fan pages. I don't know. I should, but I don't. But I really liked yours, so I follow you. So, but what got you into David Bryan? Like, why did he become your absolute favorite?
It was actually when I was a kid, maybe like 4 years old, and my mother got me into them. So she had all the Bon Jovi videos, and that's basically what I was raised on. And with David, it was like the big lion mane hair, and I always thought he had like the coolest clothes. And it wasn't until I was older, it's like, oh, he actually makes music on his own? Okay, cool.
Yeah. And you know what? And when you say about his own music, you look at On a Full Moon and Lunar Eclipse, which some of the same songs from Full Moon is on Lunar Eclipse, but those albums are just amazing.
They are. It really sucks because On a Full Moon had like some kind of failed distribution. So it never got quite as big, and even now copies go for like $60-$70.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
And yeah.
I think On a Full Moon was only released to Germany and Europe.
Japan.
I don't think it ever came out in America.
No.
But Lunar Eclipse did, and the sad part about Lunar Eclipse being released was around the same, because I think it came out 6 months after Crush, which was in December of 2000. So I don't think there was a lot of publicity for that because they were out promoting Crush and getting a tour started for that. So, but very underrated album. Just like Richie's albums. They're very underrated. But it's the way it goes, I guess. But
which a lot of people don't know. David co-wrote most of the Richie's first two solo albums.
Yeah, I knew. No, he didn't do any after. Okay, for some reason I thought he also helped on Aftermath, but no, he didn't.
No.
But and another thing about on Lunar, excuse me, I'm tongue-tied there, on Lunar Eclipse is the version of In These Arms. I actually love that version even a lot more than Bon Jovi's version on Keep Faith. I love the way David sings it, and obviously this too, that he co-wrote In These Arms, which is sadly the only song lyrically that he has wrote with John and Richie on. And I love that version on Lunar Eclipse.
And actually, I think credit-wise, he's only been given credit on maybe like 3-4 songs. But I think Last Cigarette off of Have a Nice Day. Love Lies and Breakout from their very first album.
Yeah.
So he's written it. He just
Didn't get the credit.
yeah. And on the first album, it's D Rashbaum.
Yeah, that last name. But back to Last Cigarette though on the Have a Nice Day album. Have a Nice Day. It was either that song or Novocaine that John was writing about his divorce, and I think David wrote part of that, and I don't think he got the credit that he deserved on it.
I don't think he co-wrote the song, and it was Novocaine. But he was the inspiration behind it with his divorce from April. So yeah.
And because a lot of people said that it was about Richie's divorce, but Richie didn't get divorced until during the Have a Nice Day tour, which is obviously right after the album was released. So I remember back then that was a big misconception. Everybody thought that song was about Richie's divorce. It wasn't, because
and I mean, John had said that Richie and Heather were having issues too, but no, it was sadly it was about David's divorce.
Yeah, but both good songs though. But and the thing is too is after Richie's departure in 2013 when they did This House Is Not for Sale, I think David got more room and more creativity for the album, which was really cool, I thought.
Yeah. As he's said before, he's saying all the backups, all the harmonies, and he did have a much bigger
input,
creative input with it. And then a lot of people don't know unless they've read the captions for David Bergman's books. But for This House Is Not for Sale, David actually did the orchestration for the tour rehearsal.
Oh, really?
Yeah, John basically handed the reins over to him.
Is that in the book?
Mm-hmm.
I have the book.
Yeah, there's a picture of David standing with his keyboards with his arms crossed, and it's actually part of the caption.
Oh, okay. I'll have to look through my book later on. But back to This House Is Not for Sale album, it was so good to see David have some more creativity, more input, because like he said in the This House book, is that they all sat in the room creating those songs through a piano, doing a piano riff, a guitar riff with John Shanks and Phil. And I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
Because, as you already know, David has a lot of talent, and I know you haven't seen Diana yet, so I don't want to spoil anything, but I thought Diana was just incredible. Knowing that David composed all that music, even if I wasn't a Bon Jovi fan and David Bryan fan, I would still think that the music composer from that musical was amazing.
Yeah. The only two songs that I've heard are the two that they've actually released. But my dream would be to make it to New York after this whole quarantine virus thing is done to see that musical.
Well, I told you when I went, you could have came with us, and you didn't. I know you had a lot going on.
My boss is a dick. He wouldn't have let me off to Broadway.
Well, it was the whole musical was amazing. Because obviously you've seen the other musicals, Toxic Avenger and all that. Sadly, I was never able to go to those because I was in high school and college and was never able to. But what was Toxic Avenger like? What was your experience like that with that?
I really just saw YouTube videos of it. I actually have not seen either musical live. But from the clips that I've seen, it was pretty amazing. But Memphis was by far the best, and I love musicals. That was by far the best musical I've ever seen.
Yeah. Well, I really want you to see Diana. See, we're hoping to go see it again this summer, during the MSG shows. But it's amazing, how much love and what's the word I'm looking for? kind of support that David has for the musical, because you see that how much heart he's poured into it, and it was kind of cool to see it come to life.
Yeah.
So, but
it's nice because, and a lot of people laughed at me about the song Underestimated from Diana. Anytime I bring up, it's like, if you kind of think about it, it it's a kind of a song that resembles David a little bit, and being the underestimated member of Bon Jovi for all these years,
mm-hmm.
and then finally having like his breakout on Broadway.
Yeah, and if you think about it too, look how much David adds to the band of Bon Jovi. If you look back at a lot of the '80s bands, there weren't a lot of bands that had keyboards.
No, it just wasn't a thing in the '80s.
Yeah,
all about the hard guitars and the drums and
and I was glad that there are keyboards, because if you listen to a lot of those '80s songs, you hear a lot of David's parts. And, and that's the thing that I love about this thing right here. I'm sure you have this too, the hot lick.
I don't.
You don't? I thought you did.
No.
Oh, you got to get it, because I'm sure you can see there's some of this on YouTube, I think, and on the internet. But that was made back in 1987, and you get to watch David play a lot of Prayer, Wanted, and Never Say Goodbye, a lot of the stuff from Slippery, and you just see how much composure, that's the right word to use, a lot of the talent he put into the Slippery album. It's really cool, So that's why I like watching David play solo sometimes at like little parties and events, because you get to see how the song sounds through piano and stuff like that.
Yeah. So. No, I don't have the VHS, but I got this.
Yeah, it is cool.
Yes.
And he wrote your name.
Yeah, he was awesome and even personalized it.
Yeah, he was. I don't know if I shared my experience with you in New York City when I got to meet him. Have you met him?
Not face to face. We've communicated off and on, like through Instagram Messenger. But yeah, not face to face yet.
I'm sure you're
David, if you're watching.
Well, I hope I'm sure you're gonna get the opportunity someday. Like for me, I've been a Bon Jovi fan for 20 years, and as you know, I just got to meet him 3 weeks ago, and it was an amazing experience, because we went to New York City just for the day, and I got lost in New York, and I get lost in New York, right? Is that a thing? And we were actually walking down the street where the play was at, the musical. And Rachel, my fiance, hit me on the shoulder, and she said, "Is that David?" And I go, "Yeah, that's David." And I actually caught him right when he was going in. And, I just went up to him, and I was polite about it. And I said, it means a great deal to be able to meet you. I'm, huge fan, blah, blah, blah. And he was so down to earth and stuff. And I just asked for a quick photo, and he asked me if I was going to be there that night. And I go, "Yeah, we're some other Jovi friends, and us, we're going to be here." And he goes, "Cool. I see you guys. I'll sign sign your playbook and stuff." And little did he know, I actually had all that.
You were prepared.
Yeah, I brought my first Bon Jovi CD that started it all for me as a fan, which is Crush, one of my favorite pictures, and his solo album. And that night, some Bon Jovi friends and I, we were just hanging out before the musical started, and he came out of this whole group of people, and one of my Bon Jovi friends approached him, and he came over, and he remembered me from earlier, and he was so nice. He took photos with us. He joked with us. He signed autographs, and it was pretty cool. So it was cool to have that experience, and I hope that you get that experience someday. Hopefully this year.
I hope so. It would be great. But at one point, want to say it was back in January or something. I asked him, it's like, hey, if I'm able to like get to New York, would you maybe do an interview or something with me? And he's like, just let me know. I'll see what I can do. But obviously, I'm not going anywhere now.
Well, may not be today, but hopefully
Maybe I could talk him into doing a Skype call or something.
There you go. That works too.
Like I said, David called me.
Yeah. Technology these days really can be a hassle though, because with recording and stuff, it's kind of hard to be able to remember the moment. It's a good screenshot. What am I saying? But what else?
I'll be like, no, man, you can sit there, no pants, do whatever you want. Just.
Well, I wouldn't want to see that, but
Mm.
I know you and millions of other women. But well, what's that set list behind you? What show is that from?
Oh, I believe that's one you sent me.
Oh, it is.
It is. I got around to framing that before I got around to framing the program. But yes, that is from the Pittsburgh show.
Yeah, I'm glad you like it. I
love it.
Yeah, I got 2 of those from the Pittsburgh show, so I figured, I might as well send you one, and now you have it. So, did you like that little Allentown card? I sent you that too, right? Didn't
I? Yes.
Yeah. I got a bunch of those during the Allentown show 2 years ago. But so, well, what else did you want to talk about? Favorite album?
Probably These Days.
These Days? I love These Days.
It's so much of like a darker album than the other ones.
I know.
But it's
isn't. Go ahead.
Oh no, and yeah, no, just with the critics that said that, it's a more mature album and everything. It's like, yeah, except the band was in a really great spot at the time.
I know, and that's the thing is that you listened to or watched John's interviews back at that time, and he says that's one of the most optimistic albums he's ever written. And I'm thinking, have you read the lyrics? They don't seem very optimistic to me. But you know what though? I think it's one of those albums where it's like a Misery Loves Company album, and then you see the light at the tunnel.
Yeah.
With those songs, so I think it's one of those kind of albums that, like when I'm pissed off or depressed or, just bummed, I listen to that album and it, weirdly enough, it makes me feel better,
Yeah.
But, my favorite song on the These Days album is probably Hearts Breaking Even.
Yes.
And It's Hard Letting You Go. Well, I just love both those songs.
I would probably say Hearts Breaking Even and Something for the Pain.
Oh, I love Something for the Pain.
I love it.
The music video is so funny.
Because what was it? There's like a gangster and a skater boy in a record store.
Like a skater boy that you would think would listen to like the what was it, the grunge punk music and the grunge music. You figure that's the kind of music he'd listen to, and then he puts on headphones and he's listening to Bon Jovi. Yeah. So that was kind of funny. But I think the actor that played that character was actually in the same video for Lie to Me, which is also on the These Days album. I had to look into it. I think it was, though. I think it was the same guy.
I'm not sure. But I will say, like, I write so much fan fiction. And that's like one of the top albums that I'll have playing.
Yeah. It's
just
such
to get in that mindset.
Yeah, it's such a great album. The only song I don't want to say I don't like it. I don't mind it, but it's not one of those things that I listen to a lot. Is Diamond Ring. which is a lot. Now, here's my thoughts on it. I like it because they actually wrote that song and recorded it during New Jersey. And on the New Jersey box set that came out in 2014, they have the demo. And the demo has Tico's drums on it. And I just think with Tico's drums on it, it sounded so much better. So I preferred the demo version over the These Days version.
Yeah, it's not really a song that ever kind of caught my attention.
Yeah. I don't know. It's more of just like a JBJ Richie Sambora song, you know. I don't know. Like I said, I don't mind it, but it's not one of those songs that I go to, you know.
I'm constantly I'm surrounded by friends that are, you know, John Bon Jovi, Richie Sambora, John Bon Jovi, Richie Sambora. I'm like, fuck me.
I know. Yeah, I think that's why I like talking to you a lot too, is because you have so much passion for David Bryan, you know, because you know David and Tico, they don't get as much recognition as they should. You know, like in the media's eyes, it's all about John and Richie, and even with fans, it's all about John and Richie. You know, but you know, there's still a lot of other great musicians in the band, like Tico, David, you know, Phil, you know, Hugh.
Yeah.
You know, so they deserve a lot more recognition than they get. But
yeah, and that was one of the reasons that I started the whole fan club. Is, you know, David, he doesn't get the recognition that he deserves.
mm-mm.
You know, especially like, you know, 2009 and earlier. Later on, he kind of does because of Broadway and his musicals.
Yeah.
But before that, it's like, do you guys not realize that there's more than two people in this band?
Exactly. Yeah. But it's you know it's still like a lot of people, you know, I think Bon Jovi is just John. You know, like a lot of my friends are like people that I meet and stuff. You know, when we talk about Bon Jovi, they're like, oh, him. No, it's they.
Them.
Yeah.
It's
Oh
them.
no, you know, the band is 75% John. You know, it wouldn't be Bon Jovi without John. But still, you know, you wouldn't have the same style. You wouldn't have the same kind of group efforts if you didn't have David and Tico and Richie and Phil. And,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying?
I mean, I've gotten into screaming matches with a couple of really dear friends, Julie, Erica. I love you both, but holy shit. We have gotten into just nasty debates about when Richie left, and
Oh my gosh! You know, I don't want to cut you off there. Go ahead.
no, it's like, dude, my opinion, Richie left the band, he abandoned them on tour. Fuck it.
Yeah.
Fuck it. You know, and David, he was the one that stepped up. He was the one that filled that creative and emotional gap
Yep.
that was left.
Yeah, and I thought that brought John and David a lot closer. At least you can see it. You know, I think they've gone a lot closer.
Yeah.
David.
And then people who say, you know, oh, Richie, please come back to the band. Please come back to the band. He's not coming back to the band.
No.
He's not.
And you know what? No one deserves that spot on guitar in the band more than Phil.
No.
That's my personal opinion.
Phil kicks ass.
You know, don't get me wrong. I love Richie, and I always respect what he did from '83 to '13. But you know, the way that he left, you know, just it took me so many years to get over it and find peace. Last year, I finally found peace with the whole Richie leaving thing, and you know, I love Richie's solo music, and you know, I'll support him as a solo artist. But if you were to ask me who I prefer to have in Bon Jovi, it's Phil. You know,
Phil's got energy.
Yeah, I mean, you know, and it's not like he ever tried to replace Richie. You know, he adds so much creativity. He has his own rendition, his own creativity on these songs. Like Keep the Faith. Like I like Keep the Faith, and I've always liked seeing it live. But it was one of those songs where I didn't really care too much to see it and stuff. But
Mhm.
like when I saw Phil playing "Keep the Faith" in 2011, 2013, and this house tour, it was just amazing. I look forward to seeing that song now every show because it's just he's on fire and the band is so good. And I don't know. I think the songs or the concerts are so much more fun with Phil in them. You know?
Yeah. And I had gone to their St. Louis show in 2017 with my mom. I didn't pay the big money for like, front row seats and
Yeah.
whatever. I got tickets behind the stage because it's an open stage. It was an open stage, but I got them right in front of David's keyboard. I'm like, I don't need front row. I'm happy right here. And it's like I got like a couple waves from him, got a big old smile, got some interaction, and it was great. It's like, fuck, I don't need front row for that.
Yeah. You know, some of those seats behind the stage are actually pretty cool because I like watching. I haven't done those seats for a long, long, long time, but I like being behind the stage because you can see like what goes on behind the stage and stuff. Like you see like the instrument techs and stuff working during and in between songs and stuff. And I also like to see John's interaction with the band um, too in between songs because like when the lights fade out because I remember that was a big thing back in 2013. Uh, I'm a sucker for front row seats, and I'm one of those crazy fans that buys them. But I like being close, and I remember some of those shows in the Because We Can tour. You could tell that John was pissed off at Richie quite a bit at some of those shows. You know, so
Oh,
you knew there was something going on and stuff.
oh
But
yeah.
that's just one example of why I like being close or being behind the stage because you get to see stuff that you wouldn't see if you were a few rows back or far away. And you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and with me, I mean, I'm a bigger girl, but I love dancing my ass off.
Hey, that's okay.
And I love watching David dance his ass off. And when he swings around between the keyboards, it's like, oh, nice ass.
Oh,
Um, Money well spent. Um,
but what I like about watching David during the shows, and It's My Life is a perfect example. I love watching David play and sing because
mhm.
he's an amazing vocalist. He
Oh,
really,
yeah. He's got a really powerful, soulful voice.
yeah, he does, and a lot of energy, and I just love it. You know, like we've said many times through this video, is that he's very underrated.
Hmm.
I like It's My Life when they play It's My Life live. I just watch David through the entire thing because there's so much passion in that song from him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was able to, um, like, I've asked him, a couple questions here and there, but one of them was, what is your full vocal range? Like, what's the
Oh,
highest you can sing?
that's a
And
good question.
high tenor.
Oh wow,
We're talking like the top notes in Living on a Prayer.
wow. That
Yeah.
that's a good question.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got to see him sing "Living on a Prayer" in Pittsburgh when John was sick a few years ago, and that was so good. You know, a lot of fans were bitching after the show that they got ripped off because John was sick, but pathetic complaints. But I was so thankful because it was something different, and that
Mhm.
I got to see David sing "Living on a Prayer." I've always wanted to see that.
Yeah. And he's done it, you know, a half million times with karaoke in a bar, but he's like half or fully drunk.
Yeah.
Uh, but there's one that I just found. I'll have to send it to you. I think he was in St. Bart's or Saint Tropez, um, singing "Living on a Prayer" at one of like the outdoor restaurants. But the camera's right up to him, and you can hear every note that man is singing.
Oh, you have to send that to me. I
I
might
will,
have seen it, but you have to send it to me just in case
I
I.
will have to send it to you. It is amazing. And
Wow.
then when he's saying "In These Arms" and "Rock in Rio," that top note, he freaking hit it.
Wow.
I mean, I'm sitting here watching it like, yes, like hallelujah.
Yeah, I've always I want to see, like, 'cause I know he plays with Matt O'Ree quite a bit when he has time.
Mhm.
I'd like to see him in that kind of environment, at the Stone Pony or stuff like that.
You want to talk about Jersey Boy? That's it right there.
Yeah, that's what I like about this band too. Is I like seeing their solo efforts outside of the band.
Mhm.
It's like John has said in the When We Were Beautiful documentary. You know, seeing David's musical come to life, it's amazing.
Mhm.
Seeing something that he does on his own that's outside of the band.
Yeah.
So that's why I wish Tico stays pretty private, but I wish there was like more that Tico did that showed off his talent. Because he's a hell of a drummer.
I don't believe that he does
Except,
really anything musically outside the band. His is more like the painting and art.
yeah, and golf, and
God.
and then I don't think he really does it much more. Remember the Rockstar Baby,
Mhm.
which was like a big thing during the Have a Nice Day and Lost Highway era, but it kind of faded off after The Circle came out. But
Yeah, it was kind of something that was, you know, kind of big when like Hector was born.
yeah,
He was in like promo shots with Tico and stuff, but yeah, I haven't seen a whole lot come out from that clothing line.
yeah, it was just, mainly for babies and stuff. But I don't know. Tico lives he's like the only one that doesn't have social media. Everyone else has social media except for him. Even Hugh has social media. That's funny.
Hugh does have social media. He
Yeah.
does.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, another one of the band that I wish was more in the spotlight, but leads a pretty private life is Alec.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you
But
see.
I think he just kind of went to normal life after '94. I think he just kind of, because like you don't really see or hear about him. Then like he blew up for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and then you haven't heard about him since.
Yeah. It was kind of something that David talked about in a podcast. I can't remember who it was with, but he talked about, the guys, a couple of them going into rehab before Keep the Faith.
Yeah.
And he said Tico went into rehab for his drinking and got with the program, and Alec didn't.
Yeah. And and that's the thing too. And I have the magazine somewhere where he spilled his guts to the press, and he even admitted to it. Talking bad about John and stuff. And as you already know, they like to keep everything tight circle. You know.
Yeah.
So, but and then there's some music video, or they're not music videos, but live performances on TV. Where there's one where they were playing Bed of Roses live, and Alec made I couldn't hear it. You can't really tell bass in songs unless there's no other music around it. But that's just me. But I guess Alec made a mistake, and like Richie, John looked at him and gave him the stink eye, and like,
Yeah.
once you get that stink eye, boy,
You have fucked up when you got the stink eye.
you're in trouble after that song. Yeah. But it was sad to see because he's the one member I've never gotten to see live.
I did.
No, don't tease me. But I'm
Every
serious.
time.
I just really. What These
Um,
Days tour?
nope.
Oh no, he was on the These Days tour. That was after Crossroads.
When I was 5, um, so we're talking 91, in Portland, Maine. And then when I was 7, me, my mom, and my cousin Sherry went on a Keep the Faith tour, and we had 2 concerts there, Philly and Groton, Connecticut. And we got to see them inducted into the Spectrum Wall of Fame too.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I remember you showed me pictures of when they were doing the fan club.
Mhm.
That was cool.
When the fan club was actually like affordable.
Yeah, fan club is
That's why people don't like me, because I will call out Bon Jovi on bullshit.
I think 90% of the fandom doesn't care about the fan club. I've been a fan club member since I got my first job when I was 16. So I've been a fan club member for 13, 14 years.
Mhm.
And the last 3 years, every time I renew, I wonder to myself, why do I renew this? What is the point?
Yeah.
But
I'm just thinking, David, start up your own fan club. Start it up. Better yet, pay me and I'll start it up.
well, the thing is that Mrs. B doesn't run it, and then Matt took over, and it was good when Matt had it. But once band merch took over and it was out of anyone's hands, even John's, it just went downhill.
Yeah.
Like I remember every year you'd get like a rare item. Like I remember in 2012, every fan club member got a signed rare CD of him in the Starland Ballroom, or however you call it. And every year you got an autograph, you got good merchandise, and then but nowadays you get like a little pin and a blanket you can get from the dollar store. It's
Oh yeah. Ooh, Dollar Tree.
what's that?
I said, ooh, Dollar Tree.
Yeah, I mean, really, it's just it's no fault of the bands. It's not John's fault. It's the company that runs it, Band Merch. They're just terrible.
Yeah, and when Mrs. B ran it way back in the early 90s, you'd get the magazines, I think every month or couple of months.
Yeah, it was every season because you got 4 a year.
Yeah.
And I love reading through those because there's so much cool content, and it came from Mrs. B, it came from John. It was just so like you would find out things before anybody else did. And not to anyone's fault, but now with social media, I mean, look at us, for example. We find out things before the band even announces it. So, how can you post something in the fan club before everyone else? You can't.
Yeah. And
But
that's
back then it was newsletters and stuff, and
yeah. And that's kind of the shitty part about running a fan club, is when you find something out, like from like a band member, and it's like, fuck, I can't even share this with anybody.
yeah.
Like that's the worst part. But I mean,
it's cool to know stuff too, in my opinion. It's good to kind of know some inside stuff, and but you got to respect it and not say it to anybody. It's
yeah.
But like look at the fan club now. You get a pin and a lanyard, and that and
For $60.
you log into the fan club. It's like crickets. Even the fan club pre-sale for tickets is terrible. So
What's with that? I mean, you're supposed to be able to get like, front row and like a discount and all this nice shit, and just don't.
No, when I did the pre-sale for 2020 tour, I had to keep refreshing for 2 hours before I could find really good seats. You should have access. The Chase, or what was it, American Express or Chase or whatever credit card
American
company.
Express.
They had more better seats than fan club members had. And so it was just
that just goes to show you, it's like, yeah, money does make the world go round. And
sure does.
It's like, I remember being able to get, Matt was kind of an asshole when I said it on Twitter, but
Matt?
I remember when you could get, 6-row seats for like $30-$40.
Yeah, not anymore. Well, see, I really like Matt. He's actually a really cool guy, and I like that he came on after the pre-sale and asked us how we felt about it and stuff. And I think everyone was able to share their thoughts and stuff. And I think things will be a little different on the next pre-sale. Matt is a good guy. He tries to help out fans as much as he can.
He is. But I mean, I haven't even bothered with. I didn't bother with pre-sale. I didn't bother with sale.
You're better off with public on sale, honestly. because I bought my tickets on pre-sale and I got really good. I got second row and eighth row center, so I didn't do too bad. But the day the tickets went on sale, I saw that there was like a bunch more front row seats and a bunch more second and third row seats that weren't available on pre-sale. So I'm like, what the hell's the point of doing pre-sale these days? You know, because every pre-sale I always take the day off. You know, you have to. You know,
It's like us gamers for like
yeah,
midnight releases.
yeah. It's like, why do I even do that now? Why don't I just take the public on sale day off? You know, thing is though with the public sale that scalpers, scalpers and Ticketmaster are working together and
yeah, but even now, like with Ticketmaster, StubHub, Vivid Seat, SeatGeek, the tickets they get divided amongst these vendors.
Yep.
So it's like, who the heck am I going to go to get my front row tickets?
Exactly. Well, these scalpers, they buy these tickets. Say they buy a front row ticket for $1,500. These scalpers are going to charge $6,000 for the. And and Ticketmaster profits off of it and works with these scalpers. But wow, I think that leaves us there we talked for 45 minutes already. But I'll end the recording, and you and we can talk for a couple more minutes if you'd like, and then go from there.
All right.
Okay. For those still watching, if you haven't already, follow David Bryan FC on Instagram and Twitter. Okay? All right. Thanks, Leesha.
Thanks.